Welcome back to another episode of the Think Inclusion podcast, the storytelling podcast, where people come and share their stories in order to help others learn about differences, learn from new experiences, and learn more about the world that we live in today. Today I'm joined by the wonderful Cliff, and Cliff is here to bust a myth, to change the stigma, and to move people's insight around living with HIV in the current day and how HIV is no longer a death sentence. Having this conversation with Cliff was one that I really enjoyed, and I hope that you will take lots away from today's episode. Enjoy. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Think Inclusion podcast. My name is Garry Clarke-Strange, my pronouns are he, him, and I am your host again for today. We've got a really good guest coming for us today. I'm really delighted to have this wonderful human being joining me. I'll say hello quickly and then I'll talk about what this episode is about. Cliff, hello and welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Gary. Nice that you invited me.
Thank you for being here. We got to know each other very quickly, but very well over the last couple of weeks. We got introduced through an online event that we were both part of. And today's topic we're going to talk about, it's quite I would say, I don't know if this is the right word to use, Cliff, so correct me if I'm using the wrong term, but I think it's quite a serious topic to talk about. We're going to talk about HIV, and we're going to talk about the reality of being LGBTQ and HIV positive, but also not, people just in the LGBT community, and also the reality of kind of what it's like living with HIV and the stigma that exists around that. Because if regardless of what we think, 2025, stigma still exists around this condition. But firstly, would you like to introduce yourself and kind of let everybody know who you are, and then we'll get to know you a bit better through your story?
Yes, sure. So my name is Cliff Hoffmann. My pronouns are he, him. I'm German. I live in Austria. I work in a big pharmaceutical company. I'm the lead of the PrEP ERG. I'm Pride ambassador also there. So and also in my private life, I'm really into giving community something back, in the drag community, in the fetish community, a little bit of everything, a little mix of emotions and the logical part.
Love that. Living your best life, Cliff. Absolutely. Yes. Living your best life. So the premise of Think Inclusion, for anyone who's listening for the first time, it's a storytelling podcast. That's the reality of it. And Cliff has kindly agreed to come and share his story today. And the main reason that we encourage people to listen to other people's stories is to learn from others' experiences. That's the reality of what we can do here. And actually maybe think differently about different either conditions or people's backgrounds, etc. So let's get started. Let's start talking about you, Cliff. Let's get deep into your story. And as I said at the start, so this is a conversation about HIV, and I think the perfect place to start really is recognizing that obviously we, as myself and yourself, well now know that HIV is not the death sentence that people would have considered to be many years ago. It's a chronic but well manageable condition, with the right treatment, and that's what we're here to do today, to break this stigma around HIV. But let's start by talking about your diagnosis, your experiences with that. Tell us about how this started for you, this journey.
Yeah, so for me, don't start it like this, that I know that it's not a death sentence. It starts more in the bad way. So it was 13 years ago. I felt sick. I felt like I had the flu, and then I just had a blackout, fall on the floor. And then my husband, I was married at that time, called the ambulance, and then I get into hospital. And then I was 3 weeks in the hospital. It was like I feel that I was separated, but nobody wanted to talk with me. Nobody wanted to talk what I have about a diagnosis or anything. And after the 3 weeks, they just sent me home without a diagnosis, without anything. I didn't know anything, but I thought, okay, everything is fine. And for sure, me and my husband, we didn't see us for we see us for 3 weeks, but we couldn't have closeness, we couldn't have sex. So for sure, we had sex in that evening. And 2 days later, they called me back into the hospital, and it was like, I waited there for 6 hours, nobody came. Then they sent me back home. And the next day I came back, and then it was, I waited, I think, another 3 hours. Then the doctor came in. He sat next to me. He looked me in the eyes and say, yeah, you know why you are here. And I said, no, why? You told me I should come back. Yes, but nothing else. Yeah, you have HIV. And that was everything he told to me. He didn't told me what to do next, what happening. He just told me that, and then he sent me home.
Wow.
And I was alone there because they don't said me that something worse, that I would need somebody or to help me. So I drove with the car home, and on that way I thought a lot of times, should I take the next tree? Because for me it felt like a death sentence, and I thought, okay, then I can end it now before I don't know, have a bad life and feel like I'm dying all over the time. But then I said, okay, I have a husband, I have a family, I need to live. So I drove home. I told my husband. He was sure. We cried a lot, but he said, my husband, we stay together. And at this moment, the worst thing for me was that we had 2 days ago sex, and I didn't know if I'm now the person who infected him or
Hmm.
what happened. And so we needed to wait 3 more months if we know if he is not or if he. So that was for me the worst part of it.
Yeah.
That I have it, okay, yes, but I would have feel much worse if I infected him.
Understood.
And yeah, and the next part was that we called my parents because we wanted to tell them what's happening, because they know I was for 3 weeks there. They know that I went back to the hospital. They wanted to tell me. And then I told my mother, and my mother really screamed for 15 minutes on the phone. She was really screaming, screaming, screaming. I couldn't, my father couldn't do anything. It was really like, yeah. And then the time started where we thought, what is the next step? What is happening? And the lucky thing in this part was that the best friend of my mother, the whole family are doctors. So the daughter, the husband, everyone around. And then they talked together. Where is the doctor? Where we could get? We could help? And then we traveled to the next big city where the hospital was,
Hmm.
and there it was like we just arrived and we didn't have a date to come there. So we just went there. And then first they said, oh no, you can't come just here. We have so many patients, it's not possible. And then my mother for sure cried again, and everybody was, and then the doctor had a good heart and he said, okay, come in and talk with us. And then he was really like, okay, it's not a death sentence. We can give you medication. Everything will be fine. And then we started the medication and everything. So from that point, everything went much better than the first thing where I thought life is over and I wanted to drive on a tree.
I just can't imagine how those days felt for you in between that diagnosis where the doctor gave you zero information by the sound of it, just literally a diagnosis. And, as you say, this is 13 years ago, but the reality is, even in the LGBTQ plus community, we were not all educated about, actually how things had advanced with HIV medication, etc. So I'm not surprised that you kind of had listened to the stigma and the stories and would have thought it was a death sentence. How did those days feel between that and then getting to a good doctor, by the sounds of it, who actually was real with you and could help you understand that this,
Yeah.
you can still lead a healthy life?
Yeah, so it was really, so the really hard part was that we didn't know so we know what is happening with me, but we didn't know what's happening with my husband. So this was a big part. So we don't know, is it just me? Is it him?
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, if you are not, I would leave you that you can live a life with someone else. So all these stuff when you don't know that you can live a good life, these are all things. And he said, no, we stay together, whatever happens. And I don't put any burden or I don't, if it happens, it's not your fault or whatever.
Yeah.
So it was really like a hard time, but a time where I felt that I'm loved and we love each other. And also my family were really caring. Sure, they were like shocked and everything, and they didn't understand. And also, at that time, my parents don't know that we have an open marriage, that we are live a sex positive life. For the people who don't know what sex positive life means, is that you are living your sex life. It's not like you have your husband and you you have sex with him, but you have sex with others, you enjoy parties, you just live what you want, not the
Exactly.
heteronormative sex lifestyle.
Yeah, and it's something again. I think there's still stigma and taboo about that within the LGBTQ plus community, and obviously outside that as well, about about a sex positive life and also open relationships. And I think, sharing your story and being honest about it is really something to help us to start to break that stigma down. And so people don't look down on a chosen way of life, which is still a very healthy way of life and a normal way of life for many, many, many people. What were people's reaction outside of kind of that closed group, Cliff, of people who were in your family and obviously your husband and maybe kind of closer friends? But when you started to talk to people outside of that group about your diagnosis, how did they react, and were you facing stigma there?
Yeah, so this took a long time, to be honest. At the beginning, it was really just my family, and that's it. And I didn't talk with anyone, even for the first times. I don't get back on dating apps, or I didn't go to fetish parties or whatever. It was really like me, my husband, my family, and nobody else. And then, when I get the medication, I'm undetectable, so I couldn't transmit the virus anymore. Then, sure, I wanted to get back to the life that I enjoyed,
Yeah.
because sure, when you like to live sex positive, you want that life and you enjoyed that life. So, and when I get back to that, it was at the beginning very hard. When you talk with people, it was always like the stigma. Oh no, you have HIV. I don't want to have sex. But I always say, you use the condom or the PrEP or whatever, because everybody could have it, because you never know. But if somebody's honest with you, you could even take more care if you want. And in the beginning, it was very, very hard to meet any person. And then it was the time where PrEP started. So,
Yeah.
And with PrEP, there was a big, big change in the queer community. It was really like, we all have this 80s lifestyle where you think you die and everything is there. And now this fear has gone. People
Yeah.
say, okay, I can take this medication, everything is fine. I can have the sex that I want. I don't need a condom or whatever. Or people want a condom because of other STDs. So you could have the sex life that you want. And this made a big, big change. And when the people understand that, it was anytime easier to talk with people, because then you can also say, okay, then the other person, okay, I take PrEP, so there's no problem from my side. Or people say, okay, you are undetectable, then everything is fine. So when the people learn, it makes a big, big difference.
As someone who kind of lived in that time, right? You're giving memories back to me around kind of there's a word that's jumped into my head as you're talking there, Cliff, and it's liberation. There was a real feeling of liberation, I think, in the community at that time because of the advancements and because there was now options for in terms of HIV. And I think to confirm a few things for anybody who's listening, and me and you know these terms off by heart, Cliff. So let's kind of help people who might not be aware of what these things mean. So PrEP is a tablet you can take if you are HIV negative. And you can take it for various at different intervals. You can take it daily, or you can take it what we call event-based, if you are going to be having unprotected sex. And that basically prevents you from contracting HIV. That's the reality of it. And then you mentioned something else, which is undetectable. So that's what I would know as U equals U. Do you want to explain that to the listeners, what that truly means?
So U equals U means that you take your HIV medication. This means the virus gets so low that you can't detect it with the analytical methods in your body. And when this is, you can transmit it to anyone. So you can have sex without a condom, and you can transmit the virus. So everybody is safe. It's even safer than with a condom or with PrEP, because so a condom has 99.0 possibility to transmit, then PrEP has 99.9, and undetectable means 99.99. So it gets with everything safer. So it's the safest if somebody's honest with you.
And I think, living in this community, it's about, ownership and honesty in this space. But again, that's not something that's known maybe outside of particularly the LGBTQ plus community. I think for me, one of the understandings when I still remember when I started hearing this term U equals U, and probably ashamedly so, I didn't really understand what it meant. And this would have been in my 30s as an openly gay man. And understanding that because you can take medication if you are HIV positive, that means as you said, your viral load is undetectable. Not only can you have a healthy and normal life, yes, you'll take medication for the rest of your life, but you will have a healthy and normal life. And actually, again, this is my own understanding of it from people who I know are HIV positive, actually potentially healthier than normal because you've got such good healthcare wrapped around your diagnosis, and you see kind of clinicians so often regularly, and also that you can't pass it on to anybody else. And I think that was one of the fear factors that existed, and I think that's still not clear outside of the community. I don't think people understand that yet.
Yes, it's really so. I just know the numbers for Germany, but in Germany, just below 20% of the whole population know what U equals U is, what PrEP is, and this is nothing. It's 80% don't know
No.
this big thing that changed really everything. That
Yeah.
changed the stigma about HIV, that changed the fear about it, and that also could liberate not just the queer life, it could also liberate the straight lifestyle, because
Yeah.
it can. Sure, they think it's just a gay problem, but it's not true at the moment. The numbers for queer people are getting lower and lower because we know what undetectable is, we know what PrEP is, but the numbers for straight people are rising and rising. So they need to know it, that they also get this, because if you don't know it, you don't go to your doctor and ask, could I have it, if you don't know about it.
And that really worries me, actually, if I'm honest with you, that the lack of awareness of that, because I've seen stats like you as well, where, there is growth outside of the gay community. And I think there is a belief that, as you said, it's a gay issue, it's a gay disease, or also it's only really prevalent in kind of certain African countries, for example. That's where these things are prevalent. But that's not true. That's not the reality. And I know in British media, there's been a bit more, like in kind of thing like TV programs, there's been a bit more awareness driven around that. But I still don't think people know that this is not just a gay disease.
Yeah, and also I think it's so we now have talked about PrEP and about undetectable, but we also have PEP. So this is the pill that you can take when you have a risk contact, and I think this is something that is also very, very important for straight people, because we have still a big problem about raping of women, and when they go to the doctor, they just check for if they get pregnant or whatever, but they don't check if they get HIV or any other
Yeah.
STDs. And if you know that you could get this pill and everything is fine, you can take yeah, sure. At the moment, they don't know it, they don't think about it because they don't think about this. But it would change a big thing if you know, I go there, I get this, and nothing could happen.
Yeah.
So, and also for if you have, I had a friend, she get cut with the glass from someone who was also HIV, and he cut it himself, and then she went to the doctor and they did nothing, and then she talked with someone else and they said, yeah, go to the doctor and ask for PEP, and then she get it, and then she was fine.
Yeah.
If she don't know somebody who told her, she maybe could, sure, the risk with the glass is very low, but she felt so much better after she know that I could go there and she get it, and she felt relieved.
Yeah, I get, and again, this lack of awareness, and even lack of, you go back to kind of your initial diagnosis conversation, the lack of support and kind of conversation around this, even in the healthcare community, not all, obviously, but people need to be aware these things exist so they can help people remove that risk. I'm going to be bad on my stats. You'll probably know better than me, Cliff. But with PEP, so PEP, as you said, for those listening, is some medication you can take post exposure if you have got a risk of exposure. Is it 48 hours, I think, after exposure you
I
have to
think
take
it's
it?
48 hours. I think there's also 172, but
Okay.
it still lowers something. But 48 hours is the best. So 48 hours, if you have a critical contact, it's the best thing. And then it's 100% sure if you take it, you don't get it. So this
And I
is
mean,
really.
my understanding is it's quite it's not easy to take it. It can be quite, you can be quite ill from taking it. But the benefit is that you have, obviously, you've removed your risk of contracting the virus. So you know. And there's something I'm going to call myself out on something, Cliff, because I've just said the word virus, and earlier on I used the word disease, and I actually don't know whether that's the right term to use when we talk about HIV, because it is a virus. And I don't know if anyone's listening out there that will hear this and go, "Oh, he shouldn't be using that word." Like, I'm learning all the time. Is that a word we should be using in this space, or is virus the kind of common term?
It's still the right word. It's also undetectable, means that the virus is not detectable anymore in
Yeah.
yourself. So it's the right word. I think. Don't think there is something new.
But also the good thing is that things are changing even more. So I was listening to a podcast a few weeks ago, and now things with PrEP. So at the moment, PrEP is in tablet format, right? But the great news when I hear these things is that also there's talk of potentially eradicating HIV, new diagnosis, but because of all the treatments out there. But it's now evolving to effectively like not a one-time vaccination, but a vaccination you can get, right?
Yes, at the moment we have this 2 months that is
Yeah.
already, and this is also my next doctor. When I go there, I want to ask if it's something that I could also take. So I'm really good at taking my tablet every day. At the time, I don't forget it and everything. But still, it would be much easier if I just get a syringe every 2 months. It takes this, I don't feel it every time, but still, if you take every day a tablet, you still get this in your brain. I have a disease. So, but if you
Oh
just
yeah.
have it every month, so for me, it don't affect me. But a lot of people, it affects. If you take every day the pill, it gives you every day back. I have HIV. If the so it can take a lot of pressure from people. And at the moment, there's also the 6 months. So just 2 times a year. But I think it's just approved in one country at the moment. But I think it comes really soon to other countries. So. And this will be a big, so 2 times a year is nothing. So it's
Exactly.
like, when my mother always say to me, "Yeah, I wish they could cure it," and I say, "I take my pill," and for my example, my mother has high blood pressure, and she's really bad with taking the pills, and I say to her, "My life is even easier," and also, she need to measure every time. I don't, so I just take my pill and fine. So
Right.
I always say to her, "My life with pills is much easier than yours," but she always feel bad for me. But I
Yeah.
say, me, no, it's because my life is good. I also go every 3 months to the doctor. So my life at the moment is, beside of that, I know I have it, is not a difference. I take the same, nearly the same pill. I take it every day. I go to the doctor, and there is no difference than if I would be negative and take PrEP.
Yeah, just there's two things you said there that I want to kind of reflect back over. And talking about that, the reality of, there's so many other what we class manageable conditions out there from, as you said, your mum with high blood pressure, diabetes, except there's so many out there. And we've completely normalized them. Like, if you get them, they're not ideal, but you can live a healthy life. But I still don't think we have normalized HIV to that point where we go, oh, not that it's fine, because no diagnosis is fine, but the fact that you can still, it's a manageable condition is very, very different. The other thing that came into my head there, Cliff, that I want to kind of go back to, and I don't think, because obviously now I'm in this world where I look at the positives, like we've been talking about, the reality of HIV in 2025 and beyond. And when you talk there about the kind of the benefit of only having a injection every 2 months and not having to take the reminder every day that you have the virus of taking a tablet, the word that was in my head there was it's still traumatic. And
Yes.
for many people, do you think that still is the case that trauma is still existing around their
Yes.
diagnosis?
So for me, I'm mentally very strong. I'm a positive person, so I take this really easy, even at the beginning when it's hard. But I always look forward. But I know a lot of people who it's still, they feel ashamed. They also hide when they go somewhere for a dinner or something. They hide their tablets. They don't want to that you hear or something. Or some don't put an alarm on their clock because then people could realize, oh, he's something. So it's really a fear for some people.
Fear and shame, maybe.
Yes.
There still is so much shame around this condition. How do you think? Because you talked there about how you're so mentally strong, okay? And I love this about you. In the short time I've met you, I feel this. Like, but I think back to that situation where I don't think there was any care given in your diagnosis. You were given a, a term and you were told you had it, and you were basically thrown out of the hospital, for want of a better term, if I'm being a bit dramatic, right? And that was after weeks of not really being given the right duty of care. How have you got to this point where you are so comfortable and confident with where you are with this?
So for me, it was really, it was step after step after step. I started to be open on the apps. Then I realized, okay, it's not a problem anymore. The people know about PrEP, about Undetectable. Then we're always at the time when you could put your status in the apps. So I was said, okay, now I talk every time about it. I just put it in. Then people can ask, and the people who don't have a problem, it makes it easier. So then I
Yeah.
was at the next step. Then it was like, okay, when we come with straight people into the mood that it's something, I just say it. And then I realized, okay, the people are curious about it. They want to know about it. But so it sure was with people I know, friends, colleagues, whatever, I realized came never a bad thing. It was
Okay.
always, they asked how I feel, how it is, but they never make any bad thing. So
Yeah.
then was the next step. Then I said, okay, what can I do? And then a good thing was one of my friends, Aspen, she worked for the Munich AIDS Aid, and she asked me if I wanted to be security at the truck at the Pride. And I said, sure, I help you. And then it was like the responsible person for the truck got sick, and she asked, would you want to be the responsible person? I said, sure, for you, I help you.
Yeah.
And then I get into this aid thing. And then she asked me, oh, we have 2 years ago, there was the International AIDS Conference, and it was in Munich, and there was a vernissage, and she asked me, could you come there, could you help me? And it was really like, and then I realized, okay, there is a community, there is people who want to give people the knowledge about everything.
Yeah.
And since then I really started, and I said, okay, I'm the pride lead in my company. We are a pharmaceutical company. I want to get this into the company. So I asked the main host of the AIDS Aid if they want to come to our company, if they want to make a presentation about HIV, about STD. And so I get more and more into this education thing, and I really realized the people need it and the people want it. So it's hard for the people to ask for it because
Yeah.
it's still a fear. If I ask for HIV, do the people think I'm queer? If I ask for this, do they think people think I'm a slut? Or we have all these things about sex. And then I realized it's good for the people. And the last thing where I really get into that was a friend of mine, Anna. She made a project. It's called Beyond Drag, where she made photos of drag artists. And she said, I'm not a queer person, but I want to use this community to help all the people with AIDS and HIV and cancer. And so she made a book, and she sold all the gainings of the book gains to the AIDS aid and also to the cancer aid. And this was
Wow.
something where I said, this is such a cool thing. And then I helped her to get it more known. And I really, so a person who is outside of our community said she wants to help us, and she wants to educate, and she wants to bring the things out. And then there was this moment, because I'm a drag artist myself, she asked me if I want to be part of the book. And then
Oh.
I said, yes, I would like to. But if I'm this, I want to tell its story, because the picture is always the person out of drag and in drag merged into one picture. And then I said, okay, I want to wear a T-shirt with you equals you, so that the people see it and the people ask, what does this
What does it
mean?
mean?
And every time when they go to when she make a vernissage or show the book, people asking, and people get to know it. And this was the last part where I said, okay, now I'm so open, I talk everywhere about it. And yeah, and now I'm here.
Well, and that's it. But the thing, I think we need more people like you, Cliff, who are willing to openly talk about it and help others. Because every single person that comes to any of your events or any of the kind of the content that you're part of, including this, every person that learns what U equals U means is another person in the world whose mind has changed around HIV. And, as I said earlier on, like, I still remember understanding it myself and thinking, why didn't I know this earlier? And there should be no shame about not knowing about these things, because there's not enough awareness out there. It takes people like you who are willing to go and share it and stand up and be positive about everything that we're doing. And I think, as we start to kind of think about, unfortunately, finishing the end of our conversation today, what do you want people to take away? I think there's so many takeaways we've talked about today. Treatment, medication you can take to prevent HIV, the reality that HIV is not a death sentence anymore, despite the fact of years of us hearing that narrative from so many sources. U equals U. If you still don't understand what U equals U is after today's podcast, go and Google it and do some more reading, because undetectable equals untransmittable. I can't even say it now, Cliff. Untransmittable. You say it for me. I can't say it. My words are gone.
Undetectable means untransmittable, sure.
There you go, right? What do you want people to take away? You've been so honest today with your story. What do you want people to take away from this episode?
So for me, the most important is that we lose the stigma. There is nothing bad about having HIV. There is nothing so it don't change your life anymore in a bad way. Sure, you need to take medication, but it don't change anything. You can live a healthy lifestyle. You can transmit it to other people. It's a chronic disease like any else, like diabetes, like high cholesterol, like blood pressure. And from my side, I always say it's even easier, because for all of this, you need to check everything. You need to check your blood sugar. You need to check the blood pressure. I just go every 4 months to the doctor, get my pills. They take my blood, check if everything is fine. And they also check other STDs, because this is also a good thing. We are, as queer people, always get this slut or lifestyle, but we take care. We take care for STDs. We take care for HIV. I know so many straight people who never did a STD check. We are sluts maybe, but we take care for ourselves. And we have monkeypox, and it was over so fast because we wanted to have our lives back. If we would take this responsibility that we had there to the straight people, we would get rid of a lot of other, because a lot of vaccines didn't take, and now we get this back. We rotted the monkeypox very fast out.
We really did. I remember again in the community, just this feeling of, okay, well, this is coming. There's something we can take. Great. Like, let's protect this and let's eradicate it as quickly as we can. There's going to be people listening, right, before we finish off, who I think are going to be quite shocked about some of the words that we've used today. Like, even, I think in our community, we've normalized so many words, but I think it is important that we kind of talk out loud. And I'm going to say this on my podcast, but you've talked about sluts and you've talked about those words that I think there's still, again, it may be aligned to the stigma and the taboo, but you've talked about being sex positive, and that is something that is a lifestyle choice for you and many other people in not just the LGBTQ plus community. Let's be clear, it's a reality out there. If you are potentially at risk, it's not just us LGBT people or us gays, as we like to refer to ourselves sometimes as gay males. It's not just us gays that can get STIs and who potentially could contract HIV. It's something that is a risk for everyone. And I hope, Cliff, that by people who have listened to your story today, they will change their thinking around so many things.
Yes, and what I always say, even if just one person hear what I'm saying, that's enough. So sure, I would like if everybody knows it, but if it's just one person, then it was worse to tell me. It was worse to be open, because then I changed at least one person's life.
And if that one person tells somebody else, even better. Yes. Right? Because then we're continuing to grow. Thank you so much. I think, your willingness to share your story and also to educate others is inspiring. I did a shout out after Pride Month and said I wanted to keep the Pride narrative going all year, and I wanted to have more LGBTQ plus guests on my podcast. When I put that post out, I never, ever expected somebody like you to come into my feed and into my world that was willing to be so open. And you will change people's lives with this podcast. So thank you. And thank you for being part of Think Inclusion.
Yeah, and thank you for giving me the space to be open.
To anybody who's listening, please remember to like and subscribe if you're listening on any of the major platforms, because all things like that help us to spread the reach of this podcast so more people can hear stories like Cliff's and like all the other guests that we've got on here. Until next time, everyone, thank you so much. And Cliff, again, you're a legend. Thank you.
Thanks, you too. Thank you.
What a story and what an episode. What an inspirational person Cliff is. And we shouldn't underestimate the bravery that Cliff has to talk openly about HIV, as it's a topic that's still surrounded by such stigma and misinformation. But sharing his story is his way of helping to break that stigma and educate others. And I really couldn't be more proud to have had him as part of the Think Inclusion podcast series. And that's the essence of the podcast. It's about sharing stories that help us to expand our understanding and our knowledge simply by listening to others. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and remember, if your company is looking for support in making your inclusion goals a reality, my consultancy offers bespoke and humanized support. So get in touch with me at Gary@thinkinclusionconsulting.com, and let's see what we can achieve together. Keep tuned for more episodes coming up from Think Inclusion.